Thank you very much indeed, Ken. Great stuff, really inspiring stuff. Now, do you want to introduce these gentlemen, or would you like me to do so?
I would.
Okay.
I've done too much talking.
No, okay, I will, in which case, you have a glass of water, there you go, and I will introduce them. So, from the left-hand side here, we have Graham McDermott, J&E Hall Construction. Beside him, we have Bob Bianchi, or beside Ken, I should say, Bolting Nuclear. And then right beside me, Jeremy Lee of Avivo Water. Now, what I would like each of you to do, just to begin with, to kick this off, is to explain what your company is and what your civil nuclear experience is. Do you want to kick us off, Graham?
I work for J&E Hall, and we manufacture bespoke chiller and refrigeration packages globally. Most of our expertise is in the oil and gas and petrochemical industries. We don't have a great deal of nuclear experience recently. I think the last nuclear experience we had was probably at Dungeness 20 more years ago. So for us, the nuclear industry is kind of a new industry we're getting back into. And one of the things that Ken kept talking about was collaboration. So we've been working with EDF to fill in the gaps that we have in our nuclear experience. Chillers, we know everything there is to know about. The nuclear industry, we're learning that, and EDF are working very closely with us to make sure we understand what is needed and how we can work with them. And
how long have you been involved with EDF?
We started off at the pre-qualification stage, probably back in 2013. We've been working on our offer since probably 2014. And working through it and refining it and deciding how we're going to work together. So it's been a long journey for us so far.
And here you are.
And here we are.
Great stuff. Bob Bianchi, yes, Bolting Nuclear. Tell us all about it.
Nuclear is part of the Bolting Group. Bolting are a mechanical, electrical and instrumentation engineering construction company. We've been involved with EDF, and prior to that, British Energy, probably since the 90s. We do a lot of work on the existing fleet. So I'd say Bolting is multi-market, should we say, do pharmaceutical, rather than after the nuclear. I'd say been there since the 90s. We've been involved in Hinkley, or let's call it new build, since probably 2010, when I filled the first pre-qual in. So it has been a journey. And we're presently working on the instrumentation package for Hinkley C as preferred bidder. And we're going through the ECI contract, which Ken discussed before. And we're going through the task order process now. We've completed 2, and we're on to our 3rd task order now. So, and the main contract will be placed sometime next year. Okay. So it's an ongoing journey.
All right. So far, so good then?
So far, so good.
So good. Okay, fingers crossed. And what about you, Jeremy Lee? Avivo Water, what do you do? How do you fit in?
Yeah, we do water filtration equipment under our legacy brand. Avivo is a relatively new brand, which was formed in 2010 of many legacy companies. The raw water intake screening company is Bracket Green, who've been involved in nuclear since Hinkley A, so in the late 60s, early 70s. So we did A and B, as well as Sizewell A and B as well. And I think all the UK fleet used our screens. Been working with EDF. Personally, I've been working with EDF since 2008 on this project. It's a bit of a long journey, really, for some very early works. 2009, we did some seismic qualification. We have actually signed the merit certificate with EDF, so we're now in contract since I think it's April this year. And it's a long road ahead, but it's it's a pleasure to have the order and to work together. And it is collaborative, definitely. That becomes apparent as you get into contract.
Water filtration, I mean, forgive my ignorance on this. I've read up as much as I can, but I'm a newbie to this. Okay, the water filtration is vital, isn't it?
It's
obviously
key to the cooling of the reactor. Yeah.
What are the main challenges you face at the site?
Probably just the sheer scale of the project. I mean, the flow rate is 44 cubic metres a second, which somebody told me was an Olympic swimming pool every minute, I think it is. And we've got 4 of them, so it's 4 times 44 cubic metres a second. So it's a high flow. The tide at Hinkley is very high as well. There's a 12-metre tide from top to bottom. So these people who don't understand, these are drum screens. So these are big hamster wheels, if you like. But we're talking 27 metres diameter by 6.5 metres wide. So enormous structures, 100 tonnes each. 45,000 fixings, all the stats, and we're currently engaged with 103 suppliers, mainly in the UK. Not exclusively, because some of the items are are quite specific. But yeah, it's a huge structural design.
Biggest you've ever done?
Yes, biggest in the world.
But by some margin.
Yeah, and all seismically qualified, and APC, which is airplane crash, shock loading.
You've obviously been involved with other industrial sectors, haven't you? How has that helped you with this project? How has it helped to inform how you approach this?
Well, we've done some enormous. It's difficult in the UK, obviously, with the nuclear industry sort of stalling after Sizewell. So we sort of went elsewhere. We've done some of the Chinese projects as well, Ningde and Lingao. But also some of the big raw water intakes in the Middle East, they have common intakes for desalination power plants and things like that. So we've got some very large installations there, especially in Qatar, where they pull loads of water in to service industrial areas. So we've sort of kept our hand in, but tried to keep our hand in the nuclear as well. But it's been difficult. When now we're back into contract, it's getting suppliers and other people within the UK who are nuclear compliant, because obviously it's dropped off the radar for a few years.
So you're still looking for partners at the moment? You're still looking for that, or is that all in hand?
I think we've pretty much shortlisted who we're going to work with. And we've got a 2-year design phase first, and then we have probably 3 years fabrication after that, and then delivery, installation, commissioning. So it's probably a 7-year contract for us.
I mean, this is a long haul, isn't it, the whole thing?
Yeah,
This
it has been already.
This is an entire career. You look pretty good in it so
I was
far.
quite young when I started this.
Moving on to you, Bob, Bolting Nuclear. How important was it to create a joint venture with Group SNEF to win work on this new project? Could you have done it by yourselves?
No. I think what you've got to remember is that the UK, I think the last project we developed in the UK was Sizewell B, which I worked on many, many years ago. So the skill set in the UK is probably diluted, looking after the existing fleet. So the new build is relatively new, and it's going to increase as time goes on. So finding a partner, we've got to remember that EDF Hinkley is an Anglo-French project. The French have built, or in the process of completing, Flamanville. So there's a lot of expertise and knowledge there. And it just seemed that you need to get that expertise, which we didn't have on new build. We have a lot of knowledge on fleet, but new build is new to the UK. So it's very important to find a partner which is similar in, not necessarily scale, but skill set to what we do, to pursue the projects that you need to pursue. So finding a partner, and in the early days, talking to Chris, who was very influential in let's call it marriage brokerage, for want of a better word. EDF were really influential in that. The French embassy in the UK were very helpful in that as well.
Oh, really?
And finding the French partners wasn't easy, but you go through the process, and it's very important to meet the needs of the project, because they've got skills they've developed on Flamanville. Our French partners is doing 3 or 4 different projects on the site. One of them is similar to this, that we've preferred bidder at. So it's very, very important.
I was going to ask you about Flamanville, because obviously the huge experience there. What specific lessons would you say have been brought back from that for this project?
It's difficult. It's a difficult project. I think the key is there's a lot of learning done on Flamanville, which we have to migrate across. And I think that there's a word in collaboration being used a lot today. I prefer to call it teamwork. And I think it's working with EDF people. I mean, we're doing the ECI contract now, and I think it's forming a relationship, working as a team. Don't be adversarial. That's key. There are issues, and they'll go on through the life of the project. But I think if you sit down and work together, you'll get past those. And I think that's key. And there's some of the major lessons brought. Technology-wise, it is what it is. It's got to be, it's well specified. It's a learning curve for everybody. What we do in the UK is slightly different to France. So we have to bring the Englishness to the specification, the British standards, etc. But ultimately, it's a team game. And as long as we work as a team, whether with our French partner or NNB, that's going to be the success of the project.
And I want to ask you about the team in its broadest sense, because of course there is a skills challenge, isn't there?
Correct.
How have you addressed that, and how do you continue to work on that?
We work on that all the time. I think Certainly over the last decade or so, we've formed we have lots of regional offices. We've spent a lot of time with local schools, local universities, and we're sort of bringing through, no different to what NNB are doing down at Somerset, is, I guess, sadly one of the good things of tuition fees going up at universities, we've seen the apprentice uptake increase. When you go back 5 or 6 years, it was always difficult to fill those positions. Now we're probably oversubscribed.
Really?
University graduates, we've got well over 50 now going through our process. And what we do as well is, now that we have a French partner, we have a graduate exchange programme. So we send our graduates to France to work in their offices, and they send their graduates to ours. And we also do the mature apprentices as well, and these are early 20s that have probably missed.
That's mature?
Well, it is when you consider apprenticeship start at 16, it's mature at 20. Yeah.
Okay.
But there's a lot of youngsters, shall we say, early 20s that have missed the boat, who were given a second chance effectively, and they work quite well. So we have a few of those going through now as well. So there is a skill gap, shortage of resource, and I think it's incumbent on everybody to work hard at doing that.
It's fascinating stuff, isn't it? How big is Bolton Nuclear? How many work for the company altogether?
In relative to people around here, we employ about 1,000 to 1,200 people. So in real terms, we're quite small to the large organisations. But if you look at our partner, they employ 30,000.
Yeah.
So it's a different scale.
Yeah. But partnership nonetheless.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is the most important thing, is it? Graham, I want to come to you with J&E Hall Construction. How does working on a nuclear site differ to any other big project?
As I said, most of our work is done on the petrochemical and oil and gas industry. So in some ways it's quite similar. Both industries need a lot of documentation. The chillers we're supplying are actually fairly simple. The technology for us is very simple to do. The big difference really for the nuclear site is every single decision, every single thing you do has to be documented and recorded. So really it's the level of paperwork and the level of detail that you have to go into and recording what you do and why you're doing it, what the alternatives were. That's the big difference that we've seen so far.
And how many people will you have on site?
Actually, the concept has changed slightly since we originally started talking to EDF. Originally, we were going to design the chillers and kind of manufacture them on site. It became apparent that was going to be difficult for us and also for EDF to manage more people on site, so we've changed the concept. We're now going to supply almost plug-and-play chillers, so they're designed as a package that's assembled off-site, and we'll deliver it and they'll be just installed on site. So we'll have a very limited workforce actually on site at EDF. It'll be limited to a team of commissioning engineers, so we may have sort of 5 or 6 people at most. And I know that there's lots of restrictions about movements on and off site and the number of lorries and deliveries that can be made. So it suited both parties, EDF and J&E Hall, to change the concept and deliver these plug-and-play units.
And do you, at J&E, recognise the skills challenge that the others on the panel have been talking about? Is that something that you've been facing?
It is, yes. I mean, we still haven't started our design work yet. We're due to start that very soon. As I said, we've been working with EDF to identify where the gaps are. So the technology for the chiller is very simple for us. It's proven technology. It's all out there. We know what we're doing. We've been working with EDF to discuss the fine detail design, and we'll be working with them over the next few months to deliver the design up front. And I'm sure we'll learn as we go along where our gaps were, but we'll work with EDF to close those gaps.
What I find interesting is that you're very upfront about, well, we don't actually have a great deal of experience in nuclear, but it's that willingness to learn and embrace it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we're part of the Dakin group, and they've encouraged us since we became part of the group to go after new business and new opportunities. We were in the oil and gas industry. Obviously, there's been a turn down, and this will go and find new business. Nuclear is a new business. In the UK, it's a growth business for the future. There's lots of plans for the future. So they said, well, go and do that and we will support you. So we have the support of our parent company as well to get the resources that we need. We've taken on some graduate engineers over the last few years based on our forecast of what we can do going forward in the various industries, and nuclear plays a big part in that.
Ken, you're a busy man. You're a happy man, aren't you? I can see you're excited by this project.
Yeah.
Yeah. How important was it for you to get involved with SMEs?
Absolutely, because coming off a number of very large UK projects, there was a tendency that big business just deals with big business, and then the big business supply chain goes down. And when we look at the complexity of Hinkley, we started to realise that actually there was not one big organisation out there who we could transfer the risk to. And the answer was in the SMEs. And we're taking that model more and more, and we're learning an awful lot in terms of how the dialogue from these three partners who are here on the manufacturing side. We started the journey on the services side, and we're just building on that. And it's really important with the SMEs. And it's also important because when people look at a project like Hinkley, they look at the billions of pounds of investment required, and some of the business think, oh, that's not for me. Actually, what we want to say is this project, you can be part of this supply chain. And you know, what do we want? We want quality manufacturing, quality design, and we want certainty of delivery. And if we get that from an SME, and then we'll do it with an SME. So it was really important. And it's part of this wider industrial policy of the UK, the SME and the manufacturing SMEs. And if you look at France and how they've enhanced the small companies over there, is really the lifeblood of our industrial strategy. So it's really important.
And this is something you'll take forward to other new build projects?
Well,
this
absolutely, because one of the things we are learning, and you know, nuclear is a learning organisation. You know, we're starting to think about our vision for Sizewell, and you'll hear later from our colleague from CGN, Min Hong, is we're having a look how CGN has delivered Taishan. They have far more contracts, so his team is handling far more contracts than what we're doing. And what that is, a greater engagement with SME organisations, and what can we learn from China to make Sizewell, learning the lessons for Hinkley, to be more efficient? Because it's wrong to think business deals with big business under an EPC contract. We've got to do something different.
Is it all tied up now? Are there still opportunities for SMEs? I mean, there may be people in this room who are desperate to get involved.
The figures on the slides, we still have a number of packages. My team, have yet to procure, yet to go out to the market. Our supply chain partners, Bylaw, Balfour Beatty Bailey, Cavendish Nuclear and Buckard, themselves have got massive supply chains they have to procure. And they're now just starting on that journey because they wanted certainty of contract signature before they can do their planning. So there's, and the work my colleague Chris does is with the tier ones to absolutely to help open up those supply chain opportunities, not just to UK suppliers, but to French suppliers and Chinese suppliers, because this is very much, we want the best of the international supply chain. So there's lots of opportunities still.
Okay, all still to play for. Gentlemen, unless anyone has any questions they want to ask. No, I think we're all done. Thank you so much. It's really inspiring, uplifting story. So Graham, Ken, Bob and Jeremy, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.